But probably the most historically consequential divergence between Locke and Hobbes is around the right to revolution. Locke believed in the inherent right to revolution. Hobbes would never allow this to citizens. That would just lead to a state of nature. But this, for Locke, is a necessary entailment of his belief in natural rights. It's not something that he emphasizes particularly. Locke was not a revolutionary thinker. He was not calling for revolution by any means, but the concept of natural rights is always potentially revolutionary. Natural rights provide a law before the law, as we've said. Natural rights hold out a standard against which you can judge your government and say, this is not the way that we think things should be done. Well, this is not the way we know things should be done because we've used our own reason to divine these laws. Natural rights, natural law allow citizens to say to their leaders, I can see what you're doing and I can see the laws that you're declaring, but these aren't the real laws. They're violations of natural law, my natural rights. And Locke does say it may be necessary at times, at certain times, to usurp power to take back one's natural rights. And in the same year that the two treatises and the essay on toleration were published, Locke's major work, there was a revolution of sorts in England. It's called the Glorious Revolution. The Glorious Revolution wasn't, on the face of it, a revolution for the natural rights of citizens. It was again part of the struggle for power between religious sects, but it was followed by a wave of liberalisation in England. There was a Bill of Rights published or proclaimed the same year that effectively gave Parliament power over the monarchy, and within about 6 years, in 1695, there was the first parliamentary elections held, though not many people could vote. That was perhaps the beginnings of English democracy. But the people who were really influenced by Locke and thinkers like him and the notion of natural rights came in the century after, in the 18th century. These ideas were a big influence on these guys, the founding fathers of the United States. If anyone's ever been to the US, these are the dudes on the money. They're people who set down the principles by which the United States is still governed. Starting as a protest against taxes imposed by Britain, the colonies 13 colonies down the east coast eventually went to war against the British government, and in 1776 the colonies had gained their independence from the king. And they wrote up a Declaration of Independence, which was written by Thomas Jefferson, one of the dudes on the money, and it's a decidedly Lockean document. It says, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with one another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitle them. Listen to that. The laws of nature and nature's God. Laws of nature entitle you to certain rights. These are given by nature and nature's God. It's a religious idea, but nothing to do with special revelation. Thomas Jefferson didn't go up a mountain and come down with the Constitution written on stone plates or anything like that. You understand God's law by thinking and understanding and looking rationally at nature. It goes on. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind require that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident. This is just as Locke says. Anyone who will consult his own reason will come up with this idea. It's innate. It's in some way inarguable. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Inalienable rights. In the 18th century, in English, to alienate just simply meant to give away. to make it separate or make it alien. But the Declaration of Independence is saying you can't do this with rights. They're kind of part of who you are, not just what you have. So he's arguing on Locke's side, and he's arguing very much against Thomas Hobbes from last week. Hobbes believed that you give your rights away on entry into the social contract. The king takes them and does with them what he sees fit. It goes on that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Again, very like Locke. Locke said life, liberty, and estate. They changed that a little bit, but Americans are very interested in estate, in private property. That's a big part of what liberty means in the American context. So these men, having declared independence, they set up a new state and a new kind of state. And they put the principle of the division of power and checks and balances into practice and set up a system where all three branches of government had their own special type of power, and they were each watching the other two and checking their power and stopping them getting too powerful. And the principle of religious toleration and tolerance over ideas was taken up and taken a lot further than in Locke. Jefferson and the founding fathers set up a wall of separation between church and state. The one couldn't in any way interfere with the other. And they set up the First Amendment to the Constitution, which guarantees the right to free speech, which means the right to express heresy, the right to express evil.